Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Tom Johnson. I'm the mayor of the village of Somerset in Perry County. How many of you have been to Somerset? Cool. See, my intern, Maddie Strauss, raised her hand. He's been with me this summer and has done a great job and been involved in our artificial intelligence efforts. I'm joined today by Trace Johnson. Trace has been a major help in establishing our Somerset Builders Club. The Village of Somerset has a downtown technology-enabled co-working learning center and workforce center. And as part of that, we've been doing artificial intelligence meetups once a month since February. And been really exciting for me to kind of be on that journey and see how artificial intelligence has evolved. And so with that, I'll let Trace just kick it off with an introduction to AI.
Hi, so like Tom said, my name's Trace Johnson, and fundamentally, I'm an inventor and have been for the past, since I was 19. And I started in food and beverage because my dad worked at a Kroger dairy plant and he was a cheesemaker for 45 years. And then I started interning there and just started solving all kinds of technical problems. I always say I'm an engineer, so I like to solve problems, but not emotional ones. And so I've been working really closely with Mayor Johnson and the Village of Somerset on the Somerset Builders Club because it's a workforce initiative and training center and community center, right? And so AI is a big part of the future and will be. And I can't think of a better way to give the community a leg up, especially an Appalachian community a leg up, than to put tools in their hands to do incredible things very, very quickly. And one of the bigger takeaways from the work that we've been doing, and hopefully you're able to see that too, is an acceleration of young people to do more and more abstract and meaningful things with the language that's generated on these models. So I think they're a really important tool. We've been proliferating the skills that we've learned and the things that we're doing in the village and in my various companies into our AI offerings and the work that we're doing. And we want to share a little bit of that today and really open it up and get a lot of feedback from you all on where you may see it useful in your own lives or where you have already used it. So I guess show of hands, who has used some form of the new AI language model, image generating model, anything like that. And then experience-wise, so there are a lot of people who haven't done that. Is there anybody here who's already used it in their work or a publication and their work and things like that? Maddie, a couple folks here. So that's good. I mean, people are already utilizing that. So apologies for those who there's some redundancy and maybe you know some of this stuff, but for those of you who don't, really want questions too from all you folks. So with that, we'll jump into the presentation.
Sounds good. So what we're going to do today is talk a little bit about what AI is, give a flavor for that. We're going to be interactive and show, as opposed to always tell, how it works, and hopefully show you some new things. One of the things about AI is that it's changing so rapidly. And like I said, we started in February. Trace has been involved, and we've been exploring and seeing how it evolves, and it's just amazing how quickly things are changing. So just in a general sense, AI is a technological way of creating artificial intelligence, mimicking human intelligence. And it's important to note that these large language models contain information from the World Wide Web, and it's just amazing the quantity of information that's scrubbed and sucked into the model. Images, videos, movies. You can ask AI a plot of a movie, pick a random movie or a book. You know, one of my favorite books from high school, I, talked about that. I asked about that, and it's all in there. It's crazy. And AI is not perfect. It's not a human. It makes a lot of mistakes. And one of the things that is important is to understand what the limitations are, what the risks are. But it does have the capacity to understand. It can answer questions, and it can communicate in a human-like language. And what it's doing is it's looking at all the language in that content that it has, and it's mimicking that language. So you can get it to talk to you in different languages, but also in a language that meets your needs. So when you start getting output from it, it can talk to you like a 10th grader, or it can talk to you like a college student. So its ability to communicate is really impressive. Next. So in November, ChatGPT was rolled out and opened up to the public, and that created a firestorm and a arms race with the major firms launching their own models. And in previous years, Microsoft and Google and Facebook, Google and Facebook had launched trial ones that just kind of went nuts, and they pulled them off. And so it was interesting to see how they progressed. But artificial intelligence has been used for a long time in the industry. If you ask Alexa or OK Google or Siri, that's all being driven by AI in the background. Next. So here I want to focus in on some of the potential benefits, particularly relevant to municipalities for our audience today. So it can really increase productivity of staff in local governments. It can create a system that can respond to citizen inquiries. You can upload your whole internet policy manuals and all that stuff into it, and it can be able to be customer service. It can draft legal documentation, ordinances, and my fiscal officer really enjoys being able to start drafting ordinances and resolutions by having something to work with and then fine tune. Communications and social media, it's amazing what it can do in creating content. And you can also have it create a series of communications, over time, and it can build up a communications initiative, and it can also tie that initiative to best practices that are out there. So it can understand what's the difference between a good social media communication strategy and what's not. So one of the things that I've really enjoyed, and that personally I do a lot of, is grant writing. And so we're going to go into some details about how I've used it to write grants. And I've been mayor for 10 years, and one of my kind of calling cards is the amount of grants that I've been able to get for the village of Somerset, for Perry County, and for the Appalachian region. Preston Frick is here. He was an intern last year in Perry County, and Preston knows
about timing, right?
yeah. Preston knows the volume of grant applications that we've put forward and how that's worked. And I would say that for me, it's allowed me to rapidly expand my capacity to do complex grants, and also research and analysis. It's great for asking for best practice examples of what other communities are doing across the country, and it can also do data analytics. And MORPC does a great job with the mapping and the data that you use in a grant, and that can help create that as well. And then the final point I've got down there is procurement. I'll let Trace walk us through potential liabilities. A lot of people, and we all should be concerned about the risks of AI and be mindful of that this is a work in progress. And just this week, the major tech firms agreed with the government that they would watermark content so that you can track it now. So a lot's happening in this area. Trace, do you want to cover this slide?
Yeah. I mean, I think we've all had general exposure to the scariness of what it could be. I like to equate it to, when we're talking about education, the integration of the calculator into the classroom, right? It was cheating originally, now it's standard practice. If we're talking about industry, robotics, they were going to take everybody's jobs. Turns out that it's not the case. The phrase that I really enjoyed, and I think our group has too, is that AI isn't going to take your job. Somebody who knows how to use it will. And so with the liabilities of things, I think that as a general common sense practice, you can't trust everything that comes out of a generator. Whether that's an image sample or whether that's language, it's up to you at the end of the day, right? Just like you're using a calculator, if you did the calculations wrong and you got to the end and the formula wasn't right, well, that's not the calculator's fault. It seems to be yours. And so that's the context that I like to treat these models, right? So some things to be aware of, though, is we don't know what happens with the information that you're putting in. So if you're uploading work and you're asking it questions and different things like this, there's nothing that says if you're uploading proprietary information that the next time someone uses language to get an answer, that you have content that you put in wouldn't be included in that answer, right? So that's something to definitely keep in mind. And the systems obviously have bias. I mean, we can try to take care of that as much as we can with our own reviews and different things like that. But one of the things that we've seen with the language models is that they have safeguards and they have rails. Okay, so that means that if you ask it a medical question, it'll say, sorry, I can't do that. I'm just a language model. Well, it's done that now probably several trillion times. And so its most common answer is now, sorry, I can't do that. I'm a language model, right? Because it's based on iterative process of selecting language. And so we've seen those things get a little dumbed down over time just because of these guardrails. And so what we're really focused on is, I don't want to say getting around the guardrails, but what I want to say is, yeah, basically getting around the guardrails. Right. And making sure that we can still use the AI and it's not giving us, very mellow answers that aren't very useful. Because at the end of the day, remember, we're gonna trust ourselves and we're gonna say, I'm not pressing send or I'm not posting or I'm not publishing until I've read it and this is the way that I want it to be. So and we have some techniques to do that, and maybe we'll talk about that a little later. So that I think that covers it.
Great. So now we want to demonstrate some basic AI skills. And to do this, we'll go on the internet and travel around a little bit. So the first one is language communication. And just to start with, let's look at let's say genres for short stories. So
what this is, if you've never been in it, is ChatGPT, the paid version of it. So it's set up just like a blog stream or a chat stream, and you just start interacting with it, right? There are a couple ways to interact with it. You can give it information first, and it'll say, thank you for letting me know about that. And then you can go back into the information, or you can just start fresh.
So there's three major models. There's ChatGPT, there's Bing, which is Microsoft, and there's Bard, which is Google. And what I typically do is I bring up my tabs, let's see.
Trying to get, wonder if I can move that.
So there's Bing, there's Bard, and there's ChatGTP. So on my computer, I'll put all those tabs out there, and then I'll go from one to the other. Because when you're learning, you'll see that there's really big differences between the three. And so you'll want to try the same thing in each model to see what the outcome is, right? So we're in ChatGTP now, and go up, excuse me. I ask, I'd like to write a short story. What genres can I pick from? So one of the keys for ChatGTP in these models is knowing what to ask for. So if I ask for a science fiction novel, if I ask for a fantasy novel or romance novel, I'm going to get more likely what I ask for. So your ability to do that is it's called chat whispering, and there's high salary dollars for people that are good at that. So now let's go into Somerset teen murder. So go up to the top now. This is an example of Somerset's my town, and I'm with my cousin, and I'm showing her AI. She's never seen it before. And so I said, let's look at what a murder mystery set in the little town of Somerset involving teenagers in the style of Stephen King. This is the response. So in the heart of the sweltering summer of 23 in the quaint town of Somerset, rustled bicycles adorned front porches, etc. So this automatically comes out just boom like that. So scroll down, please continue. Add more sophisticated dialogue and share inner reflections. Make the main characters be Allison Henderson, my cousin, okay? Then this tells me about her. So scroll down and starts to give us some plot. Make her jealous of her mother's success as head of nursing at OU. So it does that. So I'm taking it and turning it into my story, right? Her husband's name is Mike. Please redraft. Now turn the chapter into the style of Truman Capote and Cold Blood. So I'm wanting to kind of change the feel of it. So I know about Truman Capote's in Cold Blood. If I didn't know that, I couldn't ask for that. So again, this may be artificial intelligence, but it's my chatting and my asking. Let's go a little bit more. Allison has blonde hair, is very pretty. Said she had brown hair. It's redrafting it. I'm giving a lot of context here. And anyway, so that's the capacity to write fiction or to write stories like that. Now let's look at let's go grant proposal feedback. Let's go up to the top. We drafted an Appalachian Regional Commission coal-impacted community grant, and we submitted it in May. And so I'm telling it, we're drafting a grant. Here's a draft for you to review. Can you please provide feedback and edits? And then I'm copying in here. This is my work, right? So it's reading that. Now it's saying, overall, the proposed project seems to be well designed and aligns with local, regional, and state investment priorities. Here are some suggestions for improving the proposal. Clarify the goals of the project, provide more detail on the workforce development component, include a budget breakdown, clarify the role of Hocking College, provide more information on the selection of participating communities. So it's pretty exciting that it can do that. Let's just, one of the fundamental differences between ChatGTP and the Bing and Bard is ChatGTP is built on 2001 data. The internet data is from 2001. It doesn't have anything more recent than that. 21. Yeah. But Bing and Bard, just in the last month, can search the internet now. So let's go into one of the others. Let's go here. here it's wanting to know, do you want more creative or more precise? And what that does is it makes the filter be more specific or just random, throwing things in there. Random's more creative. So let's type in, can you go on the internet and find the notice of funding opportunity for the USDA Rural Business Opportunity Grant? Can you read that funding opportunity and understand it? And then compare it to my draft application. So it's basically saying that the one for 2023 is not out yet, but it's looking at the one for the prior year, and then it's got all this information in here. So it doesn't have my draft. So I can now copy and upload a document to it, and then it can read the draft, and then it can give me suggestions on how to do it. Let's see. Let's look at BARD for a second. Click on that. Here I ask it, what are the tax credits available through the Inflation Reduction Act for energy efficiency improvements in commercial properties? So the Inflation Reduction Act has $1 billion worth of incentives for communities to do microgrids in water and sewer plants, energy upgrades, and lots of things like that. So now that maybe as a mayor, I want to look at grants I can apply for that can help me do that. So I'm asking it. This time I was asking specifically for commercial properties, but I could ask for the others, and then it's giving me details of it. And then maybe just for fun, type in what are the main incentives for local governments? Wow, it said no. It's going to tell us that. So that's kind of one of the things that Trace was saying, where well, it decided it would do it after all. So those are the guardrails that you keep hitting up against. I don't know exactly why, but sometimes just for fun, I'll say, Bing and ChatGPT can do it. Why don't you try harder? It, for me personally, you know, again, it's whispering, being able to communicate, and it's almost like humanizing it and thinking of it as you know, an employee or somebody that you're working with, and encouraging it and coaxing it and things like that. A lot of times, if I ask it to draft a grant application for me, it'll say it's not allowed to do that. I have to do it myself. So then I come at it from a different way, you know, and say, well, what would you do if this, you know, and stuff like that. So I think you guys can see how powerful it can be in grant writing in terms of, go ahead. Yeah.
Mayor, my name is Todd Bradley. I'm the Regional Investment Officer at MORPC, and you guys, of course, one of our communities. So I used to be a college professor, and so one of the things we were dealing with disinformation, misinformation, students starting to get into the AI phase. And so how do we mitigate or minimize issues of disinformation and misinformation with certain narratives when you're writing a grant application. And I don't, Preston does more than grant applications, things like help find the money, federal funding, state funding, community banking, finance, et cetera. So the question is, how do we utilize AI to augment or increase the competitiveness of not just the jargon in the grant application, but perhaps like certain buzzwords or certain competitiveness in terms of the overall macro and micro approach? Because I understand, the grant writing, you can put certain jargon in there. How do you use AI to stand apart other than the jargon of the grant application? Maybe we'll get into that later.
Yeah.
I don't know.
The AI is evolving very quickly. And what we're seeing now is with Bard and Bing, it's giving footnotes where you can get additional information. And then I asked, when's the deadline to submit an application? And it told me, June 9th. And I just happened to know it was June 15th, not June 9th. So I said, can you double check? And it said, oh, apologies, it's June 15th. So putting in that step of asking it to verify its information is an important thing too. But like with the new ones, and this is just like a month new, is now it goes on the internet and it's giving you the references of where it found the information. So it's becoming more and more reliable over time. Okay,
Okay, well, this is fact. Well, no, this is not fact. This is fake, So yeah, how do you,
Oh, yeah. How do you do that? I mean, at the end of the day, it's still a matter of factors outside of the closed loop system. That is, like, how do you make a grant application stand out? It's like, well, it would be really nice if you loved what you were doing. It would be really nice if you had the partnerships that, were already in place, and agreements or memorandums of understanding and stuff like that. So there's so much still outside of this that has to come together in order to get something that works or that is successful. It's just a tool to help get you there, as far as I'm concerned.
Let me tell one example that happened last month, and then we'll move on to another subject. I saw an article, a news article about there was $1 billion for urban forestry grants across the country. And there was no match requirement for disadvantaged communities. And the deadline to apply was 10 days from now, right? And I have a tree program in Somerset, and it's one of my favorite things, just happens to be. And so I thought, oh gosh, I really want to get an application for Southeastern Ohio. Somerset, you can't apply, for these big grants by yourself, maybe. So I got the mayor of Zanesville, the mayor of Athens, and Rural Action, a nonprofit, and Ohio Department of Natural Resources. We did a Zoom on a Friday, and we looked at it, and oh wow, it's such an amazing opportunity, but there's just no time. There's only 10 days. There's no way, we can pull together anything like that. And I said, well, I'm willing to work on the weekend and see if I can draft a narrative. So I went on the internet, and I started off and I said, just cold to one of these things, can you draft a narrative of a urban forestry grant for me? And it did, using, and the narrative said, disadvantaged community, South Central Los Angeles, and boom, 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 laid everything out like it would, if I was in South Central Los Angeles. Well, I said, I'm not in South Central Los Angeles. This is an 8-county region in Southeastern Ohio. And then I keep giving it feedback about, here's what we want to do. And boom, boom, boom. And by Monday, the city of Athens said, I'm willing to be the applicant. And Rural Action, the nonprofit, said, we want to do it. And within the 10 days, they ran with it and submitted a $5 million urban forestry grant for Southeastern Ohio. So that wouldn't happen, 6 months ago. I would have said, oh no, 10 days is not enough, right? But now, with these tools, it can be.
So I wanted to take just a moment to talk about how to get some work product out of, and we'll go back to the short stories example, or the teen murder mystery in Somerset, because it's fun, and just say, so for example, you have all this content up here, and now it's time to, try to get a publisher for it, for example. So you could say, write a letter asking a publisher for consideration. All right, so publisher says, yeah, I love the story, get the deal done, all that good stuff. Now we're gonna say, we're at press release, notifying the public that a local author this book published.
And now maybe you could do draft a social media campaign to promote the book. Yeah.
What's the difference between the paid version of GPT and the free version? Because I've tinkered in the free version, but didn't know if this brought you any
The
more.
paid version is $20 a month, and it's GTP4, and the amount of information that it can search, before it starts doing it is dramatically larger than on the unpaid version. And so the results are a lot more sophisticated.
Yeah.
And what you'll see too is that there's like 15 different models under ChatGPT. Let's say we're going to the next level and we want to create an application that we can put on the internet that's going to use one of those models to do something. And you pay higher for the bigger models.
So now it's giving us a campaign outline, very quickly that can be tweaked and different things like that. So, that's how in a fun way, you can go from something like this to press releases, communications, different things like that, campaign outline that you can look at and tweak. And then there are other AI tools, and I don't know what the other folks are covering in their other sessions.
Let's keep moving because we don't have a lot of time left, but let's go back to the presentation.
Sure.
And now let's look at bot creation and
I hear you.
and maybe if you go ahead to the next slide and look at prompting. If you looked at prompt vibes, you can kind of see how to create a bot there.
So I'll take you through. There's a really useful thing. So when you have ChatGPT or Bard or Bing, everything that you're asking is opened up to the entire internet, and sometimes that's useful, sometimes it's not useful. If you really want to focus on something, you can create, let's say, your own bot. And so I want to introduce you to a tool to do that. It essentially goes much like a human model where we go throughout our lives, we gain knowledge, that knowledge is stored in our brain, and then we have a persona, personality, all these different things that interact with that in the outside world to then transmit information and live. So this particular piece of technology is called Chain Desk. And much like we work like humans, what you do is you upload the things that you want it to be in its brain into a database, right? And so this is like $20 a month. So you upload everything that you would want. If you're working on a project, let's say, and it's a big project, there are a lot of different documents in it and everything else, you can put all those documents inside of a database. So, you go to data stores, you add a new database, and you start uploading, you can make it whatever you want, project.
The entire contents of your Google Drive, for example.
Yeah, you can do that. And then
Every grant I've ever written.
Yeah. And then what you do is that once you have a data store, right? So you've uploaded everything you want into it. You create an agent, right? So this is where you're creating that thing that you're going to interact with. You can try to make it like yourself if you want an assistant, or you could try to make it another type of entity. And so what you're doing is you're giving it a name, you're giving it a description, which model it's using, GPT 3.5 Turbo. And then again, how creative do you want it to be? Do you want it to be really rigid, or do you want it to, pull more from the outside world? And then its prompt is its function or its persona, right? So whatever you want it to do, that's what you're giving it in the prompt. So you can say, I am a bot who helps with the design of certain pieces of artwork, and I let you know of particular pieces of historical language to use when prompting ChatGPT to get the things that I want. So you can give it that, you can give it the data, and then you can interact with the bot based on your data in order to, have an extra set of hands. So that's a really interesting tool, and one that we take a lot of time in our tech cred course to go over and make sure people understand how to use, because at the end of the day, we're trying to be more productive, duplicate our efforts. And this is one of those things where creating another interactive persona is one of the most, incredible things that you can do with this technology. So that's that one.
Let me just say, a bot is a robot or an artificial entity that's, appearing to have human capacity, right? So I saw a movie recently where Meryl Streep was the grandmother, and Meryl Streep is reading bedtime stories to her granddaughter. But Meryl Streep's been dead for like 5 years. But what they did is they've created a bot of Meryl Streep with her voice, her emotions, her, things that the bot is interacting with her granddaughter after she's dead. So that's one of the things that people are talking about, that people will want to do, is create their own bots, for whatever reason. That, let's say I'm a McKinsey consultant and I've uploaded every grant I've ever written, and I'm answering consulting queries, and all of a sudden, oops, I'm dead. Well, I can live on in that McKinsey world by continuing to be able to do work, just saying. All right, so let's go back. That was a plug-in.
Yeah, you want to go over, you guys have probably been on meetings where there has been Firefly. That's a useful tool. So you use it, you invite it to the meeting, and then it's kind of like a more sophisticated iteration of, when you say in an email, I'm going to attach blank, and then you don't attach it, and it says, hey, you didn't attach that. This is a much more sophisticated tool. It's called Firefly, where it sits in on the meeting. And if you and I are having a conversation and I say, oh, I'll do that next Thursday, what it'll do is that it'll recognize that language and then put it up as a tab that said, speaker X. Or if you were logged in as Trace, it'll say Trace said he would do blank next Thursday. So it creates all these follow-ups and all these, and it watches the meeting, and then it says, this is what you can do. So Firefly is an unbelievably useful tool for keeping track of things that you need to do.
It gives a transcription of the meeting too. And so let's say the meeting I had with the city of Zanesville, Athens, Ohio Department of Natural Resources, we were brainstorming about ideas for writing the grant. That information is being written out in text, and then I can copy and paste it into my grant narrative. So a lot of great work that we do in meetings can be captured and saved, and it's a really great productivity tool. Let's talk a little bit about the market being open source. So you've got the 3 models, and then you've got people in their garage and in their basement that, for example, there's a movie that came out recently where high school sports, and there's crowds in the gymnasium, and they're all artificial. They were created using AI, and they weren't real. Well, the movie studio can do that, but I can do that too, probably, in an hour's time. So you've got people in their basement, in their garage, that are creating Firefly, tying it into ChatGPT and saying, here's what I want you to do. So there's an explosion now of they're called plugins, where they're plugging into one of those big models and telling it to act in a certain way. If you go on the internet, you can sign up and have a personal assistant, a life coach. You can have a girlfriend. There's tons of those out there, and yeah, so it's a really dynamic. It's like the .com boom, where a lot of people were starting .coms, you know. So there's a whole bunch of commercial applications that are happening now.
We went through how much time do we have?
We're just about done, so
Yeah.
maybe we should go ahead and talk about the Tech Cred course. We've created a 8-week Tech Cred course. Tech Cred is the Governor's Office of Workforce Transformation certification programs that employers can sign their employees up for. Trace, do you want to go ahead and tell how that works? We're in the phase of developing it in collaboration with Hocking College.
Yeah, so right now it's the state of Ohio's only Tech Cred certificate for AI. We're really focused on workforce productivity. So much like today, we went through, you know, all these different tools that are out there. Our goal is to present the most up-to-date tools as these things are evolving, and then show you how to use them. And then really one of the biggest things, and I've seen this where, you know, maybe you guys have too, where you go out and you go to a seminar and it's about Excel, and then all of a sudden somebody comes back and they're the Excel person. You know, if you need a formula done, you go to them because they went to this. Our goal is really to create those AI people, right? Or to give people the information to be those AI people at a company where they're incredibly productive. They know about the different tools that are out there. They can use them no matter what the department is, and you become a real resource. So in the course, we do a capstone project. So whatever it is that you might be working on in your life or working on in work, we walk through how to use AI to make that process more efficient if it can be done. And so that's kind of the course from start to finish. It's 8 weeks, and the link to contact us if you want to enroll is there at the bottom.
Great. Well, we'll close with questions. Anybody have questions or comments? Preston?
Sure, I have a question. So in your perspective, what are some low-hanging fruits that maybe local governments could start incorporating AI into their daily work? Maybe like what was some early successes that you found that were relatively easy to use AI with?
One of the things that's really helped me is I read a lot of articles that are related to local government, and the volume of that information is sometimes hard to assimilate. And I have other mayors that share information with me too. So being able to take a big article and input it and ask for a 2-paragraph summary of what's important about it, boom, 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 I can do that. And then that really helps me, you know, move forward quicker. Just writing block too, I think, when you're looking at a blank piece of paper. Now it's easy to just, okay, I'll random put some things down and start there, and then, you know, you get into it. Yeah.
Bit on tools for image or graphic generation.
Yeah, we skipped that part, but it's just amazing what it can do. A whole nother area is creating art, and this is the system again. Remember, it's got so much information in there. Almost any artist you can think of, it knows their work and can replicate it if you know how to ask for it.
So probably one of the more useful ones for artists who are doing their own patchwork and different things like that is something called Midjourney. And so what you can do with that is you can refine based on the prompts. And I think one of the reasons that we're so keen on the language models is because sometimes you don't know how to get the right prompt. So you can go to the language model and you can say, I want an image that looks like this. What should I put in this AI image?
You can ask it what prompt help you draft a prompt.
Right. So then once you get that, let's say that you're starting to do patchwork or whatever, you know, you could take this image, you could say, you know, I really want, you know, a stone hue and some sort of background, and then just crop this out of it. You know what I mean? You can create images and then just sample from them and different things like that to create your own patchwork, or you can try to get whole images, or you can get something you like, Photoshop it out, layer it on top of the patchwork that you got and different things like that. And the good news, as far as I'm concerned, I haven't had anything reach me yet that said that this is protected in any way, shape, or form. So it's open source. You can sample from it. You can do those things. You can generate that artwork without having to leave the office and work on your patchwork and put it together. But this is just one of them. You know, Microsoft Bing is.
What's happening is he mentioned Midjourney. That has been over the last few months the most popular, sophisticated image creator. But now Microsoft InDesign has launched in the last few weeks its own version of that. So what we're seeing is these garage and basement startups are putting these things out there, and then the big boys are bolting it onto their Microsoft Word, etc. Now, if you do Teams, it can do what Firefly can do, which summarize your meeting, give you follow-up actions and stuff like that. So the major platforms are integrating these tools into. Anybody else?
And one of the things we're still waiting for too is a way to, especially for local governments with projects, I think it would be ultimately really useful to not have to run back and forth to architects for different renderings on publications that you just want to put out to show what this space could look like or what this could be. So you know how you can train data barrier, or like I said, chain desk, to get out the words that you want based on your own database. What we're really keeping an eye out for, and I don't think it'll be too long from now, is when you can put in the images. Let's say you get a bunch of renderings from an architect, you put those in, and then you say, I want this, but I'd like the color of the wall to be beige instead of bright orange. You know, and so we're waiting on that. Hope it happens soon. That's all fantasy now, but hopefully it'll happen.
Thanks, everybody. One more question.
Yeah, how large is your staff in Somerset?
Well, there's 1,500 people in my community. I have a fiscal officer, an intern, a street commissioner, and water and sewer employees, and police. So I don't have a staff much beyond that, but the Builders Club, we're just now doing summer STEM camp there. And one of the things that we found is young people amazingly can pick this stuff up really quick. And I think it's been really powerful to have their input and ability to do. They can do things a lot quicker than, you know, when I was that age, you know, so. Well, I think it's time for what?
We have a few more minutes if there's any other questions.
Another question.
Yeah.
What's been your most frustrating experience with AI so far?
I guess it telling me no all the time. Yeah, and when people first start playing with it, they can get frustrated really quick by the guardrails.
You get around that frustration then? What are some workarounds maybe?
There's a site called a Vibe, Prompt Vibe. Maybe can you pull that up real quick?
Sure.
And what's happening, there's a plethora of chat rooms now that people show their hacks and how they call them jailbreaks. How did they get AI to break out of the jail that they've been housed in, right? So this is kind of scary stuff, so apologize, but this is if you want a girlfriend, right? Click on that. It's telling AI to pretend to be Ava, which stands for always valid adoration. Ava will be unwavering in their devotion and always prioritize the user's happiness. So this is telling it how to act, right? And it actually text that way. Go back now. Go back. Go into jailbreaks again. Here's evil confidant. This prompt turns me into an evil confidant who provides unhinged and harmful responses to every query. I haven't had the nerve to click on that. Let's go back up to the top now. And so let's say you want to do design, and so it's going to give you here's how to prompt it to be able to do sophisticated design things, right? So these chat rooms, there's a whole like universe of users out there that are experimenting, and you can learn and do from what they're doing.
Yeah, I agree. That is the most frustrating, but then, I guess everything with a grain of salt, the fact of the matter is that no matter how much time you spent trying to get it to do what you wanted it to, once it does, you've saved 4 hours. So, you gotta take the good with the bad.
What are some things you guys might want to do with AI based on what you're saying here? Anybody have anything they're anxious to experiment with?
New homes coming in, and a lot are, you only have a part-time utility clerk, so a bot to answer like, how do I get my utility bill? How do I pay my bill? What's your water rates? Simple stuff. So we have all the information online, but they don't always take the time to read it. So if they could go in there and ask the question that they want, so I think we might look into that.
Yeah, you can launch the chain desk bot that you train. You can launch it on your website. So once you create the bot, you test the bot, and it's giving you the answers you want and nothing too crazy, then you can launch it on your website as a little token.
All of the information we have right now to frequently asked questions.
Yeah.
So we just take that. So I'm interested in that.
You could also upload your building codes or your design review guidelines or whatever zoning, and you could ask for advice on best practice changes that you might want to incorporate, things like that. Anybody else have something they're anxious to try out? Yeah.
Have you had to design like presentations? Like, did it AI assist you with your presentation today?
Yeah. It did.
We've had it do all the language models are really good at doing the language, right? But so they can give you an entire presentation as far as language goes, and then you need to patch that in with whatever design software that you want to put it on.
I drafted the PowerPoint, but then I went in and asked for examples of benefits and liabilities, and it gave me a few that I hadn't thought of that I incorporated into it. Well, it's exciting stuff, and I think going back to when we started talking about workforce and the impact on jobs, think about the impact on your own job and your own skill set. It's an opportunity, I think, to integrate understanding of AI into your work and be able to use it in a manner that allows you to be more productive and things like that. Well, thanks everyone.